The World Bank, Tope, had, during its annual spring meeting in Washington, D.C. last week, come up. We're talking about the meeting which happened on Thursday, the 11th of April. The managing director of the International Monetary Fund, IMF, Christine Lagarde, advised the Nigerian government to remove all subsidies on fuel. Can you believe that?
The same way you see my face right now was about the same way when I was watching that live on the news. And I was like, what is that? Are we going to fuel subsidy issues again? Well, as it had become usual, Nigerians took the advice as a warning that fuel price may just be increasing, thereby leading to panic buying and hoarding of petroleum products. There's been long queues, and I'm guessing, Isaac, you participated, haven't you?
I won't say that on air here because that might lead to something. Well, the development of it had already led to sharp increase in prices of some goods and services in the country, even though it hadn't started yet, although the Minister of Finance, Zainab Ahmed, moved swiftly to assure the government has no plan to remove fuel subsidy, at least at this time.
You'll be wondering, is fuel subsidy a bone in a fish? Because the fish would always have bones, except if it's a special kind of fish. But why is it that the issue of fuel subsidy removal keeps reoccurring since 2012? What's the federal government doing to revamp the refineries to end importation of petroleum? Is the subsidy regime actually still existing? These and more questions and even more questions we'll be looking at today as we discuss oil subsidy and the nation's economy.
Oh, yes, indeed. And to discuss this topic is one who I think is capable of doing it. We're talking about Dr. Ahmed Adamu of Nile University of Nigeria here in Abuja. Dr. Adamu, welcome to Politics Nationwide.
Thank you so much.
First and foremost, did you join the queue to do the
No, I still have some fuels in my car. Okay, maybe in the next 5 days, if it's still there.
Yeah, but I'm sure the situation is a bit improved now.
Yeah, I just passed a filling station. I didn't see the queue, so I think it's stabilizing.
No, for someone like Chopper to still have some fuel in his car.
All right, Dr. Ahmed Adamu is an economist. So our first question is, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, raised the issue, as we mentioned, about Nigeria's economy and stressed the need for oil subsidy removal. You are an economist. Tell us, what's your take on what was said?
Well, yes, not only economist, I'm petroleum economist. So this is directly related to my field. Like what IMF have proclaimed, they said $5.2 trillion had been spent by some countries from 2015 to date, just subsidizing consumption of petroleum. And this is a petroleum resource that has been campaigned to cause global warming, climate change. So there has been allegation that is due to energy activity that the climate change things are happening. So there has been global campaign to reduce the consumption of petroleum resources. And this is happening because there are other alternatives. So you have options for energy usage. So this is not the first time IMF has been calling developing countries to remove fuel subsidy. And I think that has been happening since 2012, you mentioned. And they said this $5.2 trillion would have been used to develop infrastructure to get people out of poverty. One of the Sustainable Development Goals is to remove extreme poverty across the world. And if you are subsidizing consumption, it's not an economic activity. So you're losing it out. And you're now creating externality, emissions from the usage of the energy. And these are non-renewable energies. Once you use it once, it's gone forever. And that we are looking at sustainable development. And when you spend much of your money that you will have spent on education, on healthcare, on development, and now you're spending it on consumption, this is not really going to augur well. Like what happened in 2018 in Nigeria. And Nigeria government spent 2.28 trillion naira importing refined petroleum. And refined petroleum has been the largest commodity in our import basket. So we spent so much. And though crude oil does not create demand for naira, but we're still spending more to import petroleum product. And now, because the exchange rate has really increased, the naira has depreciated, so our import bills have really increased so much. So it's just costing us more and more.
You speak as if you're towing the IMF line. Some people say there's some...
I'm just trying to see it from their own perspective. But if I have to look at it from Nigerian perspective, IMF is applying what we call a general approach, an approach that can apply across the countries in the world. But when you look at Nigeria, we have peculiarity, we have unique features, we have unique challenges that we have to really consider before we think of any external recommendation from IMF. First, we've seen what happened in 2016 when the fuel subsidy was removed. Actually, my personal thought or impression was in 2016, that's one night removal of fuel subsidy. And I'm sure maybe you too, you thought that was it all. And we endured the pain. We've seen what happened. But because we had confidence on the administration, because of the trust we had, we said, okay, let's go. There was no uprising. There was no protest, unlike what happened in 2012. You've seen what happened. So the president then couldn't increase the fuel price. So fuel price was increased in 2016 from 86 naira per liter to 145. And that's shoot the inflation rate to almost at the time when it reached 19%, the highest ever in a decade. Before the removal of subsidy, inflation was 9% because petroleum resource, or what you call PMS here in Nigeria, we can call it a composite. It has a composite demand and it has a joint demand. Joint demand means you can consume other things. You cannot consume other things without oil. For example, you cannot drive your car without fuel. And it's composite because you can apply it in many places. You can use it in industry, we can use it in your generator, we can use it for many purposes. So it has what you call inelastic demand. So a big change in price will not reduce the quantity demand. So you're depriving people of other consumption because they have to reduce what they consume in other places, food, healthcare, education, just so that they can afford to buy fuel. So, but that what happened, inflation flew to 19%. We've seen how just a mere sentiment or what do you call just sentiment. Let me just use the word sentiment, that prices can shoot up just by mere thinking that fuel price will increase. So fuel price is tied to all other prices. And now we've seen how other businesses collapsed because they can no longer be profitable. They are no longer viable. So you have to let go labor force so that you can maintain profit. So we see lots of jobs. And that led to the rise of unemployment rate from 13% to 23%. And that declined the investment in the country because we had withdrawal in spending. So when injection is being withdrawn from the circular flow of income, you're going to have a shrink within the economy. And that led to the recession.
Well, you've been tying all of this up, so maybe I should just ask you this so that you just finish the sewing.
So I'm just giving you the background now. So I'm leading to now where we are now. So I'm just building a story. So I'm just coming from history now. So what happened with the last 4 years? We just came out from the recession, and we still have challenges, hardship, poverty. There are some recent index that says Nigeria were one of those 6 most miserable country to live in the world. So this is a very bad figure. But we are trying our best as a country, as people, but we have some predicaments. We have some challenges. And now we are in the middle of trouble.
Hold your thoughts. Because I see you are around the question I'm about to ask you. So let me just put it this way. Now, this issue of oil subsidy removal has been with us for decades now. Some people say the will of the government to be able to, political will and all of that. So why is oil subsidy removal an issue in the nation's economy? Would it be because of some of these things that have been mentioned? Why is it an issue to be able to tackle this matter once and for all?
Like a consistent issue?
Because of, I think, 3 or 4 things. Number one, we don't have constant electricity. Then let me tell you, if you have constant electricity, the demand for oil will reduce by 30%. Because you might think that the fuel we buy to fuel our generators is small, the one you buy. But if you put it together in a year, in 2 years, in 3 years, how much is that? So we don't have constant electricity. Of course, we always demand for fuel. And when we don't have sufficient and adequate public transport system, where me and you will drop our cars in our home and start using public transport. So that will reduce the amount of consumption. For example, me and you might live in the same estate, but we might be coming here and we will drive our cars differently.
That's right.
I will not join your car. We will come here in different cars. And if it costs us just 2 liters to arrive here, 2 of us, but we are now consuming how many liters? 4. And in my car, I can take 4 or 5 people. And that's 10 liters. But now 2 liters can do that. So now what I'm trying to say, let's have sufficient mass public transport system where everyone will now, it does reduce the per capita consumption of fuel. And it wouldn't matter whether there is subsidy or not, but people can really afford it in a different way. And now this brings us to the issue of refining capacity. It's more expensive to refine petroleum in Nigeria than to import it from America because of inefficiency. These refineries have been there for 30 years there. Even the overhaul of Wari, they said they will give it to one Italian company, $50 million. For you to do for all these refineries, you need $1.2 billion to do that. For how long will you be doing that? For how long? And this is depriving the poor of developmental projects. Now, Nigerian government is spending $1 billion at least, the minimal it paid, as announced by the NNPC. That was when per barrel was $40. And now the barrel is its highest since 2013. 73 Brent crude oil is now $73 per barrel. And which means if at 40, NNPC is paying 1 billion naira per day, now it will be paying around 1.6 or 1.8 billion dollar per barrel. And this, there is no legal backing to pay for fuel subsidy because it's not being provided in the budget. And this brings us to the issue of the erosion or the abuse, or I would say mismanagement of the excess crude oil account, which is our major shock observer. So at the time when we need to develop, when we need to invest for future, when we need to invest on sustainable or alternative energy, I'm telling you, even in China, one of the largest consumer of petroleum, is now doing a restructure of its economy, meaning that it's deviating away from energy-intensive economy into a more service economy where it requires less of energy. And now the innovation of electric cars will drastically reduce the consumption of fuel. So that will literally reduce the demand for oil. And if there is no demand for it, the price will crash. And if we tie our revenue, our sustainability, everything on one pillar, and the pillar crashed, what happened to all of us?
Let's link this to politics. I'm glad you've talked about some of the things that probably would have cautioned this if they were taken care of. Electricity, you talked about transport and the refineries. Now let's take to politics. The APC, the All Progressives Congress, had taken a position on oil subsidy regime when it was in the opposition. And one would have thought that by now this should have been behind us, because you talk electricity, of course, we may not be there yet, but there are claims that there's been an increase. You talk about transportation, the trains have started working. You talk about refineries, there are promises that they're looking into all that at the moment. In fact, if you listen to the news this morning, the Minister of Petroleum was at the Gas Association meeting, which means they're doing some things. Now, the question is, why are we still where we are in 2019? One would feel that there should have been some cushioning effect, if you like, from these issues.
Yeah, so if there was a removal in 2016, well, what we expect is we should see an immediate replacement. We should have a social safety nets, for example, to protect people.
But the government provided social safety nets.
Well, I'm not here to argue a political perspective, but actually the indicators are out there to see, because what we're trying to do is, if we have this safety net, would have been in recession, would have been having this inflation. And
sorry, let me butt in. When you say safety net, let's be sure. What is that safety net that you expect?
Well, these are the things, so that you will not see the effects of the removal. It will be seamless. So you are now blending it. It's embedded into the system without you knowing. And from the time of the inception of the removal in 2016, I question it. I wrote a lot of articles. I presented papers in this area, in this issue. I advised the federal government. I said, you cannot regulate petroleum sector while you're pegging price. You cannot let price, you have to let price float according to the market forces. At that time, the barrel was around 30 or 40. And we thought maybe federal government is saving money. You are charging 145. Okay, we are giving you money, save it for us. Put it in excess crude account, and maybe later will you use it on a rainy day. But we thought, okay, and the fuel price, crude oil price rose up to 70, and the price remained 145. What's happening? So now federal government is now paying what they call on that recovery, and NNPC becomes the sole importer of petroleum because they cannot pay for its liability to the independent marketers. And now they have to, because they are like providing social services. NNPC driven by government is not for profit, but it's just trying to help people. So what they're trying to do is not to make the profit, even if it means to make loan or to fetch money from the ECA. They just have to do that, and it's becoming very excessive because 356 billion naira in a year is something that you can build a refinery. And if Dangote as an individual can build a refinery within 2 or 3 years, what happens to NNPC for over 30 years? And these international oil companies are not interested in building refineries in Nigeria because their target is to just supply to their country. They are foreigners. Why would they build refineries in Nigeria?
It's not their business, technically.
Yeah, it's not their business. It's just like we were talking about LNG. We have gas. We flare it into the air. We lost huge amount of money, and this is a premium resource. Natural gas. We have the largest gas resource in Africa, and in the world we are the 7th largest gas reserve. And this gas reserve is something that we can really convert and create alternatives. We can use it to have constant electricity, but these international oil companies, they will not build pipelines. They will not build processing plant. What they will build is LNG plant so that they can compress our natural gas, transport it to far distant destination, and use it over there.
Well, Topper, it's getting really very interesting.
It is.
But I think some people are already doing that. But you can join us live on www.facebook.com/Radio Nigeria Network. Or you can just look up Radio Nigeria FRCN and be with us live. I'm sure a lot of people are already doing that. You can also join us on WhatsApp 0705-864-2473, and then you can get to reach us on feedback.
So we'll take a break right now. When we return, we'll be looking at these issues a little more. Phone lines are already buzzing, but we'll take the phone calls when we come back. It's Politics Nationwide. Please don't go away.
Politics Nationwide. We'll be right back.
It's the only radio network in Nigeria. The network that attracts over 40 million high net worth individuals. Unarguably, the only radio channel that draws key decision makers through incisive and up-to-date news, scintillating sportscasting, and exciting programming. Radio Nigeria Network Service, the haven for discerning investors who wish to reach their target audience at the lowest cost per thousand. Your brand and corporate image deserve nothing less than a sustained exposure on Radio Nigeria Network Service. Try us today.
Stay with the movers and shakers of politics in the country.
Certainly. Movers and shakers of politics it is, live on Politics Nationwide Network Service of Radio Nigeria. Azik Bari, Tope Ojeme here as your moderators. Our guest, Dr. Ahmed Adamu. He is a petroleum economist, and he knows these issues as we take a look at oil subsidy and the nation's economy.
And it's time to take your contributions now. The numbers to dial will be 0818-075-8276. or 0807-622-6771 and 0705-149-3324. Okay, and remember, once you're calling, make sure the volume of your radio set is turned way down low, and move around a little bit. Remember, there are so many people waiting online, so don't take too much time. Tell us your name.
60 seconds will be appropriate. We'll begin at Plateau State, Joe. Samuel, thanks for joining us.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Hello, Samuel. Go ahead. Oh, well, that dropped. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hello, good morning.
That's also dropped. What's your name? Where you calling from?
My name is Sunny.
Okay, Sunny, you want to lift your voice a little bit higher?
All right. My issue of issues subsidies. Most of developed countries are not having subsidies in their country. But in our own country, most of our people are unemployed. They don't have anything to do. If government remove oil subsidies, it costs on the living standard of the people of the country. Thank you.
All right. We go back to Jos, where now we have Kanayo Nte. Kanayo, how are you this morning?
Hello, good morning, Papa.
Good morning.
My take this morning is that the government should also revamp all our oil industry. Ensure that there's no revamped standard. We have all it takes to ensure that they all those things, because all these oil subsidy removal or whatever let's just make sure that we use our water to start our things so that there's some of our the third one. So government have to ensure. I also urge the federal government so that they will revamp all it's all about industry.
All right, thank you very much then. And Sobonga Tukudo from Akwa Ibom State. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. My name is Sobonga Tukudo from Akwa Ibom State.
Thank you. You have 1 minute.
I want to advise the federal government to try to fix the refinery here in Nigeria so that it can just reduce the suffering of the people inside of the petroleum sector. At the same time, because of that, the shellfish major market has tried to hide the price of food. The people of this great country is suffering. So it's necessary for federal government to work up to fix the refinery so that we have a smooth Nigerian in the future. Many thanks for having me.
Thank you very much.
Hello, good morning. I don't know, calling from Jos.
Thank you so much.
In my opinion, the federal government to have the political will and remove this subsidy. Who is even benefiting from it? Is the pushers. You know, we just don't understand the whole level. And the subsidy, let them try to propose things are refinery, still modernize, put the money in the other sectors, you know. Let us stop all these things. By now, I thought FTC would have done all these things, taking us to the next level. I'm really annoyed, honestly. I don't feel it. Even now, right now, we are suffering. Why are we suffering this much? Let us suffer once and for all and get things working. God bless Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Marcel Enechi from Enugu. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, good morning, all of you.
Thank you very much.
First of all, just begin to know this country. Subsidy as well is also a in one word or other. Having said that, government trying to remove subsidy on it. Government to also begin to think of how to put that in place. So that if this subsidy is something, Nigeria will not begin to suffer. We are suffering now, nothing to write out. Remember, that was the time we wanted to remove this subsidy. I think we saw so many protests. But for we, government will remove this subsidy.
Marcel, you may need to move around. Marcel, you may need to move around. It's breaking. Can you move around a little? Hello, Marcel.
Can you hear me?
Okay, go ahead.
So I'm also saying the government removing the modality in place so that the money they will be removing, getting from this subsidy can be channeled in other sectors. So the gaining and the situated youth of this country will have a work to do.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, let's take this last call at least for now. Engineer Chikodi from Owerri. Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I come in peace, gentlemen. I say, may the peace of our Lord Jesus Christ be with you all. May you all live long.
Peace. 1 minute.
Yeah, I am not happy that we are still talking about the removal of subsidy. Having said so, I want to urge the federal government to be sincere.
Hello, Chikodi. Are you still there?
Sorry, but
there are messages on WhatsApp, but before we take it, a lot of people are saying that we should remove this thing and put something. But my question is, which comes first, the chicken and the egg story? Should we have things in place first before we remove the subsidy,
or we remove subsidy and use what we have to get things in place?
Will you board the plane without buying a ticket?
Well, it depends if I have connections.
I think it's like the old Nigerian Airways.
You need to buy the ticket, my friend. You have to buy the ticket first. Yes. So the ticket is you have to provide what is required, so that when you remove it, the people will not suffer.
When you don't have the money for the ticket, what do you do?
And we are trapped.
So it's a
we are trapped. Yes, we are actually trapped. Because this is the time when excess crude accounts should come and save us. As we speak today, we have less than $1 billion to do that. When Obasanjo left power, our ECA was $20 billion US dollars, but it's been eroded. Now we're talking about $1 billion. That's our rescue. Well, we are not there, and now we are trapped because we have to remove subsidy. If we remove subsidy, people will suffer, but we want to protect them. We also want to build infrastructure, education, healthcare, transport system, electricity, and to make sure we maintain single-digit inflation. So these are requirements, the conditions that IMF advised Nigeria to do this. But they didn't know that we didn't have the money to do that. And we cannot afford to keep borrowing. This borrowing is like we are digging a hole. We are still there in the trap. So we cannot just keep borrowing and borrowing.
Well, let's take this feedback from social media.
We have Dr. Mrs. Maulebara watching live from Owerri. She says fuel subsidy is the only dividend of democracy that's available for the poor masses. And contemplating its removal will put the people in excruciating pain, sufferings, frustration, and change of promise. This, she says, is unacceptable to Nigerians. And she says, we will resist it. We can't continue suffering in the land of plenty.
Comrade Monday Ame Abuja says, good morning, panelists and presenters. The call by IMF for Nigeria to remove oil subsidies should be handled with caution, as the timing is wrong in view of the hardship currently being experienced by average Nigerians. Government must intensify efforts at fixing our local refineries so that they can work at optimal capacity in order for us to be able to refine our local consumption that will meet our needs. Anything short of this will be an exercise in futility. Another message?
Adao Nogu, she's given her advice earlier, and she's also saying about the same thing. But Oladipo Ojo, watching from Elisha, says, great one from an indefatigable team.
That's cool. It makes you feel cool. So, if we leave this oil subsidy and we do not remove it, you said we'll be in perpetual poverty. How will it finally affect the economy?
Well, because government cannot sustain it. It's cannot sustain subsidy over and over again while we have this still development gaps. So what we need to do is to redirect our resources toward the alternative energy, because the world is now shifting. Energy transition is inevitable. There was no oil before. Of course, something will come and replace oil. So we just have to wait until something has taken over the world. And if we keep funding consumption of oil, and soon oil has collapsed and the price of it is no longer profitable. So we are going to be in the future trouble. So now this is the time to plan. And that's why I say we are actually in trouble. What we need to do now is to do a consumption auditing. Someone said, who is benefiting from this subsidy? Now, subsidy is also a game of number. How much liters you consume in a day. Initially, it was reported as 30 million, later 50 million, 60 million. Now 6 million liters per day. So we need to have a forensic auditing of our consumption to really know how much we do. The petroleum sector is very complex. It's very huge that you don't understand the figures. You cannot verify. There's no any system through which you can follow to verify how much liters have been imported or has been subsidized. And someone says if others are doing it, like I said, Heat also said it's not an excuse that we have to do it, because we have to look at our readiness. And that's the only benefit. I agree. At the moment, the only benefit directly every person benefit from this government or from the government in Nigeria is subsidy. And once we remove it, we are going to feel it everywhere.
Let's go back to the phone lines. Adal Dazi from Delta. Thanks for joining us. Ben Motwaya from Enugu.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning, Ben.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ben. Go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Yes. Like this would have done long years back ago. But we're all dancing in limbo. Let's take and retake. Stop subsidy. And the strong man is using this weapon to deal with Nigerians. Let's open once and for all. Let's stop our children on board. Please, for God's sake, let's stop this country, and that will change the answer.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Chukudi from Abuja. Thanks for joining us, Chukudi.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Quickly.
Yes, what I want to say that because before we think that this subsidy has been removed, what we need in this country is total removal of subsidy. Because all the time they keep on telling us that there's nothing like subsidy, but at the end of the day, they are talking of money paying into subsidy. So we talk for total removal of it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Hello.
Okay. Hello.
Thank you.
Removal of subsidy now is only tantamount to increase in our pump price, and that is increase in our suffering. Why can't we fix the refineries we have on ground, build new refineries? Why those who are involved in constructing new refineries like Dangote should be encouraged? We're just crawling out of a recession. We cannot afford to remove fuel subsidy now.
Thank you very much.
God bless Nigeria.
Thank you, Ada Odaze.
All right. Can we take one more call?
Okay, let's go to Patrick Okorafor from Arachuku.
Hello, Patrick.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you for joining us.
I wish to call on the
seconds.
federal government of Nigeria as a matter of project to give to all those boys and girls that are involved in oil bunking so that they can start operating modular refineries. This will help us to cushion the pay for this oil subsidy. At the end of the day, when we talk about oil subsidy, it is a list that benefits the poor and not benefiting. Because that's why poverty, illiteracy, and hunger in this country. Thank you very much. Have a blessed day.
Thank you very much. On WhatsApp, we have Brian Augustine from Gwagwalada in Abuja. It says, good morning, my humble presenters. Humble? Well, I don't know. He said the federal government should repair our refineries before removing fuel subsidy. Okay, thank you. Mfon from Uyo. Good morning. Like the speaker said, you can't regulate the petroleum sector in Nigeria. The marketer will strike back, and it can't be in the interest of government nor the people. Government is actually subsidizing import and not consumption in the right sense of it. By subsidizing, we are developing the economies we are importing petroleum products from. The best subsidy is production subsidy, but that's not what the government is doing. Subsidy should be removed immediately, and refineries should be upgraded and new ones built.
So I want to ask you, Dr. Ahmed,
yes.
It seems like there's a divide. Some people say, take it out completely. Others say, don't take it out. It's our only way of getting some benefit from the government. What do you say from a professional perspective?
Yeah, benefit is an injection. So we want it. It's good for economy. It makes people get money, save money, invest money. And at a time when we have this crisis, we need more injection, a little of withdrawals. We don't, because we have so much withdrawal from import. So we also equally need injection, so that our injection will be equals to withdrawals. And as we speak today, people are saying we should remove the subsidy now. And let me tell them, if you remove subsidy now, you'll be paying 200 naira per liter. Are you ready to do that? Are you ready for that? So the people have to know the consequences of that. We import this refined petroleum. 92% of our petroleum consumption is imported. And NLPC itself is only producing 10% of our crude oil production. And
so what's the way out?
So what let me highlight the dangers first, because people need to understand the danger so that they can build opinion from that when we come to conclusion. So what we import is this refined petroleum. So we have to consider the exchange rate, because naira is depreciating. So how much we import of this refined petroleum is becoming more expensive. This is depreciation of naira, because there's no demand for naira. Nobody will come and buy crude oil in naira, because the barrel is sold in dollar. So the sale of crude oil is not creating demand for our local currency. So we might think that we are exporting crude oil, but it's not helping our currency. So the naira is left alone. It's isolated.
Tope, I have this very important question, and I must ask it. You can't have a professional here and not. Some people say we should. They are advocating that we should leave oil pricing to market forces, which others argue that given the crucial role of oil in the nation's economy, there's need for government's intervention in this sector. What's your professional advice? Market forces or government unit?
Government should always regulate, should be there to ensure fair play, to be the referee, but the market forces should play the game. But they're because of our situation, because we have weak infrastructure, we have we have been forest, so we have a lot of issues here. So we cannot just hand over the market to the independent market at the moment, unless we provide all those conditions I mentioned.
There are issues on modular refinery. We don't have much time.
Yes,
but there are issues on modular refinery. The private sector claims to have done something. From your knowledge, what have they done about modular?
Well, we'll help reduce some of the demand. Will meet some of the local demand. It's good, but we need big refineries. For example, what I suggested is not to repair some of these refineries, because these are outdated. It's just like you have a 30-year-old car, you still maintain it, taking it to mechanic over and over again. It will not solve the problem. So what we need to do is to tax these IOCs, international oil companies that operate in Nigeria, and let them contribute funds and build new refineries. If Dangote can do it, why not Nigeria?
As much as I like us to go on and on and on,
yeah.
but this is where we have to
start. Okay.
Unfortunately, we have some time. I just hope that Tope will have a way to talk with producers to have you come back here. But that's how far we can go on the program today. Politics Nationwide on the network service of Radio Nigeria. I want to thank Dr. Ahmed Adamu for finding time to be here, and you almost gave us a heart attack. But thank you for being here.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. That's a much we can take, as you've heard. Do join us Thursday for another edition. Studio manager Rosemary Nwosu, engineering crew led by Abdul Wahab Bello, and Timothy Bamidele and the crew worked in the online part of what we're doing today. Adiola Benson coordinated ICT.
Emmanuel Jim, Yossi Adel, Omolala Amin, and Magdalene Ishaya assisted in the production.
That's right. Team of producers, Sani Suleiman, Shina Abimbola, Salem Akindele, Rob, Dan Ede, Roslyn Garba. My name, Tokwe Ujime. Thanks for always being there.
And I am Isaac Barry. Do have a great day.